Hey there, listeners, and welcome to Fear and Flame Podcast. I'm Brooklyn.
I'm Mason.
I'm what?
And today we're covering terror on the tracks. So strike a match, light a candle, and settle in. This one is sure to ignite some fear.
Excited.
Getting all pumped.
Episode 2.
Episode 2.
Episode 2. We're back with a vengeance. Why you were going to say something? What would you?
I don't know.
You don't know? It's all right.
It's good.
It's all right. We're back, baby.
We're back. So today we're going to start off with a little AI story that I have curated for this episode specifically. Are you guys ready?
I'm stoked. Let's get it.
Okay. In the dusty corner of an old abandoned train station, Billy the janitor leaned against a wall of peeling paint. His eyes, the color of faded blue denim, squinted against the dim light that barely seeped through the grimy windows. Billy had worked here for decades, long after the last train had rumbled through these tracks. His skin, worn by the years, was etched with a map of wrinkles that told tales of unseen horrors and whispers of the past. He heard the echo of his own breath in the vast emptiness, the quiet punctuated only by the occasional drip of a rainwater from the leaky roof. The air had the scent of rust and decay. It was in this desolate place that the legend of the ghost train of the Gap grew, a chilling story that sent shivers down the spine of the townsfolk. The tale spoke of a locomotive that haunted the midnight tracks, wailing through the station with a mournful cry that pierced the silence like a ghostly siren's call. How y'all feeling so far?
So this dude is a janitor, right?
Yep.
Taking
the
care
train
of an
station.
abandoned train station? Somebody's paying money?
Here's the funny
Keep the
thing that I
abandoned.
love about AI is the over-exaggerative details.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His skin was etched like a map.
Which is exactly, it reads exactly like Reddit No Sleep, r/.
It kind of really
Yeah,
does.
It
kinda
because
does.
they...
Which, I
They
mean, you
use
want
it
to
a lot.
paint a picture, but it's just funny as it goes on. Like, you can tell. I took some of it out,
There's
but it was
like
so
7
extra.
adjectives
Yeah.
for
Oh,
every...
a billion. Yes,
Yeah.
every single
Extreme
thing.
detail.
Yes.
Every noun. No, I like it. I like that there's so we got a 80-year-old decrepit man who can't claim any more Social Security. It's dried out, and he's taking care of a
Abandoned.
That's
Abandoned.
an abandoned train.
train station.
Yeah.
Government money well used.
Approved.
Yeah.
Billy approached the gaping maw of the tunnel where the tracks disappeared into blackness. A tank engine had been sent through that very same tunnel on a foggy night to investigate the mysterious disappearances of supplies from the depot. Its cheerful whistle had been heard fading into the mist, only to be replaced by an eerie silence. When dawn broke, the train was found, a twisted wreck, blue paint scraped and torn as if the very soul had been ripped from its metal frame. The townsfolk murmured about a vengeful spirit seeking retribution for forgotten tragedies buried deep in the station's past. The evening grew thick with fog, swirling around the station like a living shroud. Billy, armed with nothing but a flickering flashlight and his own stubborn curiosity, ventured closer to the Gap. The beam of light danced across the rusted tracks, revealing a world where shadows played tricks on his tired eyes. He could almost feel the presence of the ghost train, a malevolent force that seemed to breathe in the very air around him. His heart pounded in his chest, a rhythm that matched the distant rumble he heard growing louder with each passing second. As the vibrations grew stronger, Billy's flashlight beam caught a flicker of movement in the tunnel's mouth. Out of the inky blackness emerged the unmistakable shape of the tank engine, a once cheerful visage now twisted into a grimace of rage and despair.
So the train is evil? It's evil train?
Ghost
It's
train.
scary ghost evil
There's a
train?
ghost train.
Possessed train.
It's every 3 words.
It really is.
Every 3 words.
Yeah,
You said you took some
Inky
out?
blackness. I was going to just leave it as it was, but it was
I wish you did.
insanely long.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. It was so long. Like, we could have spent an hour.
I
reading
wish
this
you left
one AI story.
every...
detail.
The the inky, dark, black.
Yeah.
It was the color of
Hidden
coal,
shadow.
charcoal. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
It is. I mean, it's something for
Thank
sure.
you, ChatGPT.
Yes. But this was no longer the train he knew. It was hollow, glowing with an otherworldly light, and its wheels screeched as if in agony. Billy stumbled back, his heart racing as he realized the terrible truth. The ghost train of the Gap was the town's most loved train, its soul corrupted and bound to the very tracks it had once so proudly patrolled. The engine's spirit, now a twisted shadow of its former self, began to move, inch by inch, towards Billy. The janitor's eyes widened in horror as he recognized the familiar faceplate, now marred with dents and scratches, and the once cheerful red lining that now bled into the darkness or the darkened blue of his body. How y'all feeling?
I love it. It's like
It's something, I guess.
yeah. I think I've. It's like
Every time I hear the Gap, I think of the clothes store.
Yeah.
It's the Gap.
Keeps throwing me
Keep,
off.
keep away from the Gap.
So far, it sounds like a really like this sounds like if you asked like a 14, not even if you asked, if a 14-year-old was bored and wanted to write Thomas the Train. Like,
Yeah, that's
horror
kind of what it's feeling
fanfic,
like, ain't it?
isn't
Definitely the blue. I was wondering why the blue, because I couldn't recall like a train that was painted blue. Of course, Thomas the Train.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's where the AI pulled it
And
from.
then like it's the cheeriest.
Yeah.
Everyone loves the train in
Yeah.
town, and then now it's evil train.
the best train of the Gap.
Yeah. Yeah, it's dark, twisted train
Yeah.
with realistic
With
blood.
a face plate on it, whatever that is.
Whatever a faceplate is.
Yeah, I don't know if that's actually trained terminology.
Oh,
For the
there's
engine
no
of
way.
the-
There's no way.
I don't see it being faceplate.
It had become the very monster that had haunted the station. Its whistle, once a beacon of joy, now pierced the night with a soul-wrenching scream that sent a chill through Billy's bones. The ghostly locomotive's intent was clear. It sought to add Billy to its grisly collection of lost souls. Billy stumbled backwards, his flashlight casting wild shadows across the platform. The fog thickened around him, seemingly reaching out like tendrils to ensnare him. He tried to call out for help, but his voice was lost in the tortured wails and whistles. The ground trembled beneath his feet as the train grew closer, the air around him charged with an unearthly energy that stung his skin. The janitor's legs felt like lead as he desperately tried to escape the inescapable fate that was barreling towards him. The fact that AI said the inescapable, like he tried to escape the inescapable fate. I was like, all right, I'm going to leave it in. I'm going to go ahead and just leave it in.
It sounds like the train's not on the tracks anymore.
Yeah,
I'm assuming.
no, that was
just
what I
running
was.
towards
That's
it.
what I was about to say. Could he not just walk away? Is this train not on a predetermined path
Yeah,
that
I
you
don't
could
believe
just walk away from?
I don't believe it's on the tracks anymore.
No, surely not. Because I'm thinking you're an 80-year-old man, but you could,
Stumble that couple feet off the
yes, like fall off, and then it's missed you. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
We'll
most
see what-
trains usually do stick to the track unless
Hopefully.
something's broken or wrong.
Ideally.
The headlamp pierced the gloom, a cold, unfeeling eye that bore into Billy's soul. The janitor tripped over a loose cobblestone, dropping his
A loose
flashlight.
cobblestone.
dropping. It's all that ChatGPT could come up with
It's
for him to
like, what
fall
do people
on.
trip on?
What,
Loose cobblestone.
Cobblestone.
What's in a? If you think about a train station, they're made up of usually brick or stone. I mean,
Gravel.
He got to trip over
Is
something.
it not? Are we talking
Well,
about the
by
track?
the
Or we? Is
tracks.
this
Well,
dude's like
around-
on
yeah,
the?
around
He's
the tracks
in the
gravel.
station, I think.
I thought he.
How's this dude getting attacked by the train in the? Can't he just leave? That's what I'm so confused. Is he not?
How can he escape the inescapable train?
You walk
on
away.
tracks?
I don't know, man.
Like maybe just take a couple steps back.
Yeah, and then he's walking on like this is a straight up like this must be a 19. No, this must be like an 1873 like train station that this guy's having to take care of.
Yeah, I don't know if we ever
Gotta
really
preserve
built
the
with
history.
cobblestone in
No,
America.
I think it's wood. I think we made them dudes out of wood, son. I don't know.
Billy dropped his flashlight with a clatter that echoed through the station. The light
Yeah,
rolled
he's in the
away.
station.
I told you he's in the station, the cobblestone station. The light rolled away, casting a fleeing glow that danced over the rusted metal of the train's wheels. In a moment of desperation, Billy leaped towards it, his hand outstretched. As he grabbed the light, he spun around to face the horde that pursued him. His trembling hand aimed it directly at Thomas's gleaming
Oh my God!
eyes.
Welcome to Fair and Flame Podcast. Yes, yes,
Of course.
yes.
The only train on the internet.
I love you, ChatGPT. Keep doing what you're doing. This is great.
Billy leaped for the exit, his heart pounding so hard it felt like it would burst from his chest. The ground gave way beneath him, sending him tumbling into a sea of fog. The world spun, his scream lost in the train's furious wails. As he fell, he caught one last glimpse of Thomas's twisted form, the light reflecting off the hatred in his eyes. Thud. And that is the end of our story.
Thud.
So,
I love it.
when looking into this episode, I was just looking at like haunted trains, haunted rail. I was just any keywords I could find.
And you made Thomas
Every
the Train Engine.
single
fanfic.
thing that popped up was Thomas the Train. There's an episode, something about the Gap, where everyone is making jokes like to Thomas, I guess, about this ghost train that doesn't actually exist, and they get him scared and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, what can I do with this? And so I was like, okay, let's make Thomas the Train evil. And Billy is one of the kids that is friends with Thomas the Train.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, make Thomas the Train actually a ghost train and make him kill Billy.
So
You were
prompted
behind
the
this.
AI?
I prompted
Yes!
AI to make a
Wow.
Thomas the Train
I called it.
horror story.
I love that.
That's crazy.
That's great.
I love the part whenever, because it actually made Thomas like a living creature whenever I went through. So whenever I went through and changed everything, I tried to make it into a normal train so people could kind of
So the
think,
twist ending comes at the
Yeah.
end. I
there's
love it.
Thomas, baby.
Oh my God.
So anyways, if you guys haven't gathered, we're going to be talking about haunted railways, trains, stations, all the fun things. That was a good little starter for us, but I'll just kind of go into it. Basically, the Great American Railroad is riddled with tragedy and tales of the paranormal. With it being the most used means of transportation at the time, mostly the 1800s to the 1950s here in America, it carried thousands of souls across the country. People took to the tracks to follow their dreams and find freedom. But unfortunately, not everyone made it off of the railroad. Sad story. So there's actually a lot of folklore surrounding trains, particularly the black steam engines. Lots of people hear songs describing a long black train. So that was kind of something that had piqued our interest. I know there's all kinds of music that talks about trains, and people kind of mention like souls being lost, or if you get on the train, it's actually taking you to hell. Like there's so many different metaphors
Yeah.
and things that they use. Lots
Just
of
whatever
imagery.
Johnny Cash song you
Yeah,
want to throw in there.
exactly.
Yes.
Many stories talk about phantom steam trains, haunted stations, tunnels, and tracks. I have some well-known stories from a few different states here in the U.S. that I kind of wanted to go into that are cool. So we'll talk about these. And then actually all of these were just things I found on the internet. Nothing from Reddit. I didn't find any like super cool stories that I could tell of. So these are mainly like historical ones. So
Heck
we'll
yeah.
kind of go into these a little bit.
All right.
The first one that I want to talk about is in Colorado, and it's called the Phantom Express of Marshall Pass. I don't know if you guys ever heard about it, but I think it's one of the more famous ones. So a portion of the railroad that caused engineers and firemen to quit without notice. On a dark, snowy night in the late 1800s, an engineer by the name of Nelson Edwards and his fireman, Charles Whitehead, were guiding a passenger train through the Marshall Pass. With the inclement weather and a weak bridge, and also a defective rail, the men were on alert. They could hear the whistle of another train approaching when Edwards heard the signal from the conductor to stop the train. He did so, and the conductor rushed to ask why he had stopped the train. Edwards said that the bell cord had been pulled, issuing the stop. The conductor said that he was crazy and told the men to immediately get the train moving because a wild steam engine was on their tail. Panic filled them as they did their best to get the train going as quickly as possible. The warning whistles continued approaching. They raced through the snowdrift, and passengers became increasingly concerned. When the other train became close enough, Edwards could see a white figure waving frantically from atop one of the cab cars. They were able to get onto a side track when the engine came up next to them. 2 white figures could be seen in the cab. The Spectre engine turned to Edwards and laughed. Luckily, they were going fast enough that the other train could not pass them, so Edwards maneuvered back in front of the train. The following train held on the whistle, no plan of slowing down. Quickly, Edwards and Whitehead made it over the damaged bridge to the rail that had been said to be broken. They noticed workers appeared to be working on the section and attempted to stop the train, but the rails were so icy that it barreled right through them.
And these fellas can't catch a break.
I know. Just like the snow that seemed to dissipate, the men that were working on the track that they thought were there, just like the snow, disappeared.
Awesome.
Looking back at the pursuing vehicle, Edwards watched as it hit the defective rail and plummeted off the track into an embankment. Both men assumed that it had to have been the phantom train that was commonly talked about for this railroad. It is said that a note was written into the frost of the cab window. So next to the conductor or the fireman, I'm not for sure who it was, in the window, it was so frosty because it was icy outside. They said that this message appeared written into their window. It said, "Years ago, a freight train was wrecked as you saw. Now that you saw it, we will never make another run. The engine was not under control and 4 men were killed." Szechuan men? I'm not for sure how that's pronounced because they misspell everything. If you ever ran on this road again, you will be wrecked. So that was the message that was left for them. Nelson Edwards quit his job the minute that run was over.
Fair enough.
So as soon as he got off the train, he said, "I'm never doing that,
Fair enough.
that
Yeah.
again."
Fair enough. You know,
If I see a white figure on top of a train waving at me frantically, I think I'm gonna be like, maybe this job is not for me.
Yeah.
And
Wait,
then
so
I barrel
did it-
into
what
some
year
ghosts.
was that? Does it
This
say?
is, I
You
think
think
it
it's
had
real?
to have been close, 18, maybe 90s.
you think it's real? I don't think it's real.
You think they were just really tired and
No, I think they're just
Sorry.
BSing. I think they're like, watch this.
Yeah, that's a.
they
It'd
just
be
needed
funny.
a reason to be able to quit their jobs.
I think that'd be hilarious. Would that not if you wanted to quit your job? So you're like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to tell them the biggest BS.
Yeah.
We saw damn Ghost Rider behind us.
Yeah.
Well, people claim to see the Phantom train piercing over their tracks to this day on Marshall's Pass. So these figures are still waving at the top of the plane, smiling at people, writing them
Top
little
of the plane?
notes. Oh,
I say these fellas,
Train.
dadgum, dude.
trains, planes,
Yeah.
automobiles. No, on top of the train.
Listen, I would just assume, even if I did see something like that, the weed was too strong, son.
No.
I think that's just break time. It's time to go to bed.
Yeah, doctor prescribed too much opium.
Yes.
The issue is it's 2 people saying the exact same thing.
Okay,
Shared
Wyatt. You know
delusions.
what? I think me and Wyatt. Hell, we saw a damn Ghost Rider behind us on the way to Walmart.
And did
don't
it
know,
follow
it's
you
a-
all the way to
Yeah,
Walmart?
it was pretty scary.
Interesting. I don't know.
Did you have a note in your passenger window? Like, was a note left for you?
Oh yeah, yeah.
What'd he
It
say?
said, "Do this podcast one more time, and you will be."
And 3
You'll go to
Chechens
hell.
died on this.
Yeah.
Is it Szechuan? Is that how you
I don't
say
know.
it?
Szechuan.
I don't know. I don't know what
It's
you're
spelled
talking
very odd.
about. If it's
I-
Szechuan, like the Szechuan
Like the
sauce.
It's like, how did they spell it?
I don't know if that's a place, is it?
I don't think so.
I don't
I'm
know
not
if it's
very
like
worldly.
a ethnicity.
I know it's a sauce.
It is a sauce.
They spell it Sexsun. Like Sexshun. Szechuan.
I have
Section.
no idea. Never seen that or heard of that word.
Section. It's supposed to say section, I think.
What?
4 section men.
Section.
Like, or section, is that a
Section.
worker?
Because that would make a
trained
lot.
worker?
That would
I
make
think it is supposed to be
That would make a
section.
lot more sense than 4 foreign men
Yeah.
from China or from the Chinese area decided that they were going to be conducting.
Okay, rereading it now.
You know, I saw it. I can't do
It
that.
100% is section.
I can't do an Asian voice on this.
After reading it 100% is section. I apologize. That makes a lot more sense.
It does. It does.
So maybe the men that they saw that were working
weren't Asians.
They weren't. But the men that were working in the area were actually the ones who died. The one that they
We
saw.
can't
that
talk about
disappeared.
that on here, man.
What?
Maybe we can. That'll be another episode.
There was a lot of Asians working on the train.
Well,
railroad
yeah,
tracks up
Chinese.
they really did have a lot of
Is
people
that
of different
A lot of
ethnicities working.
immigrants?
Yes, it was a lot of immigrants. Next is North Carolina. The Mako Ghost Light. That's what this one is called. Legend tells of a brakeman by the name of Joe Baldwin who was in the last car of the train. It was a late night and he had gone to sleep when he realized that the train seemed to be slowing down. He jumped up to look at the cars ahead of him to realize that his had become detached. Another train was quickly approaching. There was only one thing Baldwin could do. He grabbed his lantern and swung it left and right, hoping the engineer on the following train would see it. Unfortunately, it was already too late. The train collided with Baldwin's car, throwing him from it. His body was found, but his head had been decapitated. After that, stories were told of a lantern being seen swung on the tracks back and forth. Signalmen began using two lights to prevent confusion from Baldwin's lantern as he searched up and down the tracks for his head. So,
what is it with these people and not jumping out of the way? I have not.
Hey, he may have been. His cart may have been moving.
It may have
quick
been.
still.
But hell, I think I'd like them odds. I mean,
better than...
It's kind of weird. I don't know the train following so closely behind. I don't think they really ran trains scheduled like that. They may have at that time,
Yeah.
but that just seems kind of.
I think it's a fun way to explain why they had to do whatever the two different light thing, like why they had to switch it up or something like that.
Yeah.
I think it may just be a fun little.
The two light deal is an interesting idea.
So it continues on. The light was seen up until 1977. The tracks were then removed and it wasn't seen again. Although the story cannot be confirmed, a death did occur around the same area and time. A man by the name of Charles Baldwin, so the Baldwin was still right, was killed from a head injury due to a train colliding with his. The engineer had forgotten to light the lantern at the front of the train. The engineer was taken to court for the accident, but not charged. They said that the burden of the death was deemed punishment enough for the engineer. So the other train couldn't see that there was a train there, and the man ended up dying from a head injury. So I feel like the story was probably inspired.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like they just kind of stretched it like always.
Yeah.
You know, just kind of.
His head was decapitated.
Yeah.
They never found it. I mean, still horrible. That's very sad.
Oh, yeah. I think it's definitely one of those things where they're like, hey, like, they try to make it spookier, I think, like make it into a horror story so people stop, or so maybe they change over the two lights to make sure that, you know, that they're...
Yeah, it's also just a good warning
two.
because it makes people... Oh, you remember when you heard that story? We got to make sure our lantern is always lit.
it's just
Exactly.
kinda- yeah, like a
PSA, basically.
or housewife's tale or whatever. Just kind of a.
Something to help people
Yeah.
do things right.
Yeah, do it the right way so they're not haunted by Charles, the headless man. Yeah.
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 Very sad.
Like the old German kids' tales.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, eat your greens or the monster will eat off your feet, you know?
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
I thought of that song. Pentatonic sings a cover of it where it's like talking about the little kids that put the scarves on their necks so that their heads don't fall into the snow, make the snow red or something like that.
When did
I don't know that
Pentatonics
one, I
ever
guess.
sing about that?
Everything
never
I've
heard
from,
it?
No.
Everything I've heard from Pentatonics was gospel music.
Yeah, or like, you know, Christmas stuff. What do you...
Yeah, Christmas music.
It goes, I was following, and it's like an echo. Following the pack, all swallowed in their coats, with scarves of red tied around their throats.
That just sounds like
That
blood.
sounds-
To keep
Yeah, that
their
sounds
little
like-
heads from falling in the snow.
Oh my God.
And I turned around, and there you go.
Pentatonics talked about beheading children.
Children.
What are we talking
Michael,
about?
you would fall and turn the white snow red as strawberries in the summertime.
What are we? Whoa, whoa! In the
Yeah.
summertime, yeah, no,
It's so
we're just.
funny because it sounds so pretty.
It's
though.
hilarious. Yeah, kids being beheaded. It sounds so funny, Brooklyn. What's funny about that?
It's not that it's funny. It's
You
just,
think that's funny?
It's just that
Brooklyn?
that came to my mind.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a tick. I don't have TikTok, but
Brooklyn
I do have
likes-
Instagram.
thinks
I thought
children
of the
gore
Christmas
is funny.
movie where they're on the train. That's kind of what come to mind talking
The,
about the trains.
Polar Express.
Polar Express, yeah.
Yeah,
I love
that's
Polar
a sweet
Express.
way to
The
think of
Ghost
it.
Man.
And he meets the guy on top of the train. Yep.
That is
That
terrifying. I always think of that. That is so scary.
You know what I
What's
hate
even
about?
scarier is seeing Tom Hanks be the characters with all those little dots on his face. That is even
Yeah, that's
more
kinda creepy,
terrifying
too.
than the actual ghost.
Yeah, if only he wasn't. Is he?
Deal.
I don't know. Tom Hanks is. I think you know what. Who gives
think
you
it-
the right to censor
Yeah.
the truth?
I think it took guts to say
Yeah.
that. That's kind of courage. That's
Yeah.
gonna bring it
And
to
you
the
know
top.
what? Who else is?
Anybody high up in the government.
Yeah, I
Might as
think
well just
a lot. I think Michael Jackson was innocent though.
yeah. How
um,
could he? Michael
he loved
Jackson was
kids.
a kind soul.
He
It's
loved
not
kids.
true.
It's all
That's ignorant.
It's all baloney.
That's ignorant.
It's all
It's
lies.
ignorant.
They just got scared. They won't sleep in my bed.
We're going to move on to the shadow train of Arizona. So, a prospector, or a gold miner, whatever you want to call him, was making his way through the hot desert on his way to Dos Cabezas. And while on his way there, the sweltering sun caused his donkey to have a heat stroke and die.
Dang.
The miner could not find shelter or water and was in pretty bad shape himself.
Feel like he did too.
Although he tried to keep going, the man grew delirious in the extreme heat and passed out. He was only awoken by the sound of a steam engine coming his way. It made no sense considering there weren't any tracks or any towns for miles away. But he saw the train and heard the whistles and hisses as it gained closer to him. The man was exhausted and dehydrated. His body refused to move. Right before it got to him, the train stopped. The conductor got out of the train and helped the man into a car with the other passengers. He asked for water, then lost consciousness again. Feeling cool water being poured over his face, the prospector awoke once more, this time seeing a sheriff in front of him. Once he'd gotten some hydration, he asked the sheriff what had happened. He replied, telling the man someone had found him miles outside of the town on the verge of death. The miner asked what town, and the sheriff said Wilcox, Arizona. He asked if it was a stop for the train, and the sheriff seemed concerned, saying that the miner should have some more water and rest. Try to recover from the immense heat. Turns out there weren't any trains around, and there wouldn't be until years later.
Sound like fella just had a dream. I don't know.
Yeah.
At that point.
But I think
Hallucination.
the confusing part is like the distance from where he was headed to Wilcox, Arizona. Like I think that it was like some weird
It was like a
amount
train.
like a train would have had to bring him because he passed out and he didn't think that he could have walked any further.
Maybe
Huh.
him and his mule were going the wrong way.
It's true.
Maybe,
It's true.
but
I don't know.
the man, he says he probably died saying that conductor on that train in the middle of the desert where no tracks were saved his life.
Yeah. I don't know how reliable 1800s old gold pictures are though.
Gold
but
miners.
I
It's
don't
cool
know.
though.
It's
I mean,
cool.
yeah.
I remember
Out of any of these trains that I could come in contact with,
that's the best
I'd want,
one.
I'd want the one
Yeah.
that's going to
Yeah.
save my life and not
No,
kill me.
I don't want Thomas the Hell Engine. I
No.
want I want that guy.
I agree.
It does remind me of like I remember watching some weird Netflix series. I just vaguely remember it being where it was like a train that used to go through this area or whatever. Like whenever this guy was like young and he's old and he lives in a house with his like grandkids and his kids or whatever. And then just the train comes through their living room or something like that and picks them up. when he dies. Some weird. I don't know if anyone knows what I'm talking about.
No, I guess I haven't.
But that was. And
What did
then
you say?
they were
What
like,
channel it was on?
It's Netflix.
Oh, Netflix.
Yeah,
Seems
I don't
familiar.
remember.
Like just different stories.
Yeah.
Was it like a ghost, like paranormal?
Yeah. And there was another one too where off topic, but it was like where I think it was something about a story where these two gals back in like the 1800s or early 1900s or whatever were walking down this path, and then they ended up going down the path that their parents told them not to go down, and ended up falling off this ledge, and they thought they were gonna die or something like that. And they said that, like, all of a sudden that gal closed her eyes and opened them, and they were on the other side of the path or something like that. And
Like a guardian angel type.
yeah,
of thing.
no, like, and I think the little boy, like, supposed to be like 3-year-old little boy, was like, been like, did you see him or whatever? And it's like talking about like, an angel or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was cool. And then he was like, and 40 years later or something like that, this dude has like a fever. And in the middle of it, he explains this situation or whatever. And his parents are like, what the hell are you talking about, son?
Mm-hmm.
And then like a week later, he gets over the fever. And he's like, what are you guys... Then they ask him about it. He's like, what are y'all talking about?
Like he didn't remember.
Yes.
Kind of just sounds like a fever dream.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like the guy, whenever he did describe the conductor, he said that he was like a very cheery, like super nice, joyful. Like he had a big smile on his face as he was like helping the man into the train, and all the people were trying to help him. So it just made me think like maybe it was the Lord.
Yeah. Or Tom Hanks.
Or it was Tom Hanks.
I think he prefers picking up kids in his train, though.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like he realized he was too old, and he's like, "Well, I guess we'll drop him off." And
We'll-
Wilcox.
Yeah, he doesn't get to make it to the North Pole. No, only
Oh.
good boys and girls
Yeah,
get to go to the North
Not
Pole.
gold miners.
not older
Not
than
old gold
12.
miners,
We don't
yeah.
want an expired one on the train. I think the
know.
big problem with like the haunted train thing is it seems like all the stories are late 1800s, early, like 1880s, 1890s, and stories change and stuff over time. And
Everybody
I think
adds and
people were just
embellishes.
making it up.
Yeah.
Some of it.
They
you
were
know?
bored. They didn't have much to do with
Yeah,
their
and
lives.
genuinely. I mean, what else you gonna do? I mean, you milk the cow for the day and make your daily trip to, I don't know, town, the outhouse, whatever you do in a day.
Yep.
You got to come up with something.
People are like, you know what? Nobody knows that much about trains, so
Yeah.
they're going to be likely to believe this story that I
Oh,
just
yeah.
made up.
Oh yeah.
Possibly.
Oh yeah. No, demons live in technology, and we.
Demons are technology.
Yeah.
So demons are trains,
Yes.
and trains are demons.
Yeah.
Essentially, everything is demonic.
Yep.
Cool.
I think you got it down.
Yeah.
That
Do you
reminds me, there was a car that killed like 2 or 3 of its owners, I think.
Like a ghost car.
Like they think it was possessed by a spirit or something, but yeah, I can't remember what model car it was.
There's a supernatural
But
episode.
there was like 2 or 3 of the owners, I believe, were killed by it, which is what the supernatural episode was based on.
Yeah, I remember watching that supernatural episode where the car, basically just
Yeah,
Wonder
Kill
how much
people.
they want for it.
that's what it was based on.
how much
Do you know how cool that'd be to be like the owner of that right now?
That'd be horrible.
That you know how much money you can make off that? Oh my goodness!
If you live, what if
yeah,
you die?
you get the demon car, dude.
Yeah, I don't
You
think it's
know?
killed anybody in a while, so you probably.
It's probably all right.
Yeah, it's probably fine. Just,
I mean, shoot, some Dodge Vipers have probably killed more people. It's all right. I mean, really.
Or Ford Mustang.
Yeah, I mean, you know how many people have passed away because of a Mustang? I think that they're doing a lot better numbers than Demon Car. Okay,
He's only got 3 on
listen.
his.
Yeah, I mean,
Dodge 330 Golden Eagle. I think that
Oh
might
my
have been
God.
the one I was
this
thinking
is
of.
the first Dodge Demon.
Is 3 officers who used the story of the Golden Eagle began in 1964 when a Maine police department purchased the car. 3 officers who used the car in patrol committed murder-suicides.
Oh, wow.
So 3 separate officers who used the car on patrol committed murder-suicides.
And they just
So
kept
3
giving it out. All right.
The car was
lucky
then
you.
sold to a family named Allen, including Wendy, who seemed to enjoy the car's history. The car was vandalized by a local church, and a teenager who visited the car later stabbed his family to death and set their home on fire.
Okay, so 2 PTSD-ridden, disgruntled police officers. 3.
3 police officers.
Mind you, that was probably just commonplace. I feel like
Why were
just
they
the
just handing the
coincidence
keys
was.
off? Well, sorry, that one's gone. All right, here's the keys. This is your new car now. Here's your new patrol car. Don't worry about so-and-so that just died last week.
I think
you can
it
have
might-
this now.
It might just have been being a police officer back in like what, the 40s,
That would have been in the 60s.
the 60s.
Yeah, 60s.
I feel like it probably was just like 2 or 3 police officers that like. I don't think mental health was as big of a deal back then. I think maybe they
But
just had
murder,
to deal with it.
Probably not,
suicides,
but
they
3?
didn't just kill themselves. They
Yeah.
killed other people and then killed
3
themselves.
murder suicides in this. That you would assume it'd have to be the same department. That's a lot of murder suicides.
If that's enough
in
for a car, how much is enough for a building? Because I think there's a couple apartment buildings that probably got it beat. Just to be real.
the hotel in town.
Yeah, I
probably
think
has
that.
it.
I think hotel, whatever Motel Caroline or whatever it is. I think it's got the demon beat.
Remember our man Abe? Abe
Abe.
Lincoln. Honest Abe.
Yeah,
Abe's
that's my
coming
guy.
Back up.
This is our
We-
favorite president.
This
I
is our
think.
favorite dude so far. He's our first recurring character.
Yes, we have Mr. Abe. Abraham Lincoln's funeral train. After his death, Lincoln's body was carried back to his resting place in Springfield, Illinois, in a train covered in black cloth. It is believed that the train can be seen on the day of Abe's death, moving along the tracks still covered in dark mourning cloth, only seen to be lit with dim lanterns. Sometimes crying can be heard from a distance, indicating the grief and loss felt for the previous president still remains. So a lot of people apparently see Abraham Lincoln's death train
It's
come
good.
down to Illinois.
You know how good of a president you got to be to have the angel train running after you for years after. You got to be a pretty goated president.
I just think it's crazy because he was so involved, and I didn't know until
Yeah.
these 2 episodes that we've had, like how involved he was in like
You
the
couldn't get away from
spiritual
it, man.
world.
This dude was like haunted.
Yeah, or now he's haunting.
Now he's
maybe,
haunting.
Possibly.
He got his turn.
Possibly so.
You
I
know
do
what?
like Abe. I'm a big Abe fan.
You know what?
Here's the this is the car I was thinking of. So the cop car is a true story, a good story. But this one is it was a 1954 something Porsche 550 Spider owned by James Dean, all the way until his death September 30th, 1955. Apparently, Dean had traded his 356 Speedster, another Porsche, for it, and later nicknamed it Little Bastard in honor of the nickname bestowed upon him by his language coach. It had serial number 550055, and Dean met his violent end in it in 1955.
So that sounds very familiar now
How'd
that
he
you
die?
said that.
Let's see. Fellow actor Alec Guinness, upon seeing the car, told Dean, "If you get in that car, you will be found dead in it by this time next week." Accounts maintain that this conversation took place on September 23rd of 1955, so 7 days before he died.
Wow.
Custom car specialist George Barris, who designed the TV series Batmobile in the 60s, bought the wrecked car. When Little Bastard was being unloaded at his place, it rolled off the carrier truck and injured a mechanic. A doctor by the name of Troy McHenry bought Little Bastard's engine and reportedly put it in his own Porsche race car. He died racing this car on October 22nd, 1956. Snopes.com also makes mention of another doctor who bought the transmission from the car, only to also figure in a major accident. A man who purchased 2 tires off of the car crashed when said tires failed and blew out, and a truck delivery driver who was tasked to bring Little Bastard to a road safety show got killed when the truck lost control. The car is now nowhere to be found. Reports say it was stolen.
You know
Well,
what
whoever
I think?
stole it is probably dead.
I think half of that is probably just from having a car that could go like 150 with no airbags or crossbody.
No
Seatbelts.
ABS or any sort of...
Yeah, I think that might have been
Almost
half
like-
of it.
Maybe.
That's crazy. That sounds very familiar now, though, that you said James Dean. That definitely rings a bell now.
Isn't that just the guy from the show?
Huh?
Isn't that just the dude from Supernatural?
No, well, his Dean is a character in Supernatural. He's one of the main
Who's
characters.
James?
But James Dean is he was an actor.
Yeah, he was...
Very well-known actor. You've heard of James Dean.
Is he related to Jimmy Dean?
I don't
They
think
make
he's
sausage?
related to the sausage
I don't know.
makers.
Probably. There's no-
I don't know.
They're all related, actually.
That'd be awesome.
You know James.
He
Dean.
was an actor. Jimmy Dean was an actor, wasn't he?
Jimmy Dean, the sausage
Yeah.
guy.
He acts commercials, I think.
Yeah.
Or maybe acted a few commercials.
I don't know.
What is the Jimmy Dean slogan?
What is it?
Today is your day to shine.
Yeah.
And no
Yeah,
shortcut to
it's-
quality sausage.
For sure.
You can't change the direction of the wind, but you can adjust your sails to always reach your destination.
Look up Jimmy Dean. Who is Jimmy Dean?
His
See
most
that?
famous quote is that words to live by, especially when you add a pan full of signature sausage. There's got to be room in this country for a good quality sausage.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen, brother.
That's Jimmy Dean.
Jimmy Dean. Shout out Abraham Lincoln.
James Dean.
If anybody's mom's out there in this
Tom
country
Hanks.
looking for a good quality sausage,
He's got.
let us know.
He's got the
Yeah,
best.
do not let us know, please. Don't.
Let us know.
Our email is solely for your own personal ghost stories or encounters.
But
please, no applications
No.
to.
don't send us anything that is inappropriate. Please.
If I ever see something inappropriate, I will shut down the Gmail.
She's lying.
All right, one story left. You guys, this is kind of a little bit of a longer one, but this is what's going to finish us out.
All right, let's get it.
Utah and or San Antonio. So, in the late 1930s, a fatal accident was covered in the San Antonio newspaper. It detailed a school bus carrying around 40 to 60 children that had stalled out in the middle of a railroad crossing. While waiting for help to arrive, the bus was hit by an oncoming train. The scene was horrific. Oddly enough, the incident didn't actually happen in Texas. It is archived to have happened near Salt Lake City in Utah. Records show that around 30 children were killed, their bodies found along the snowy tracks. However, Texans argue that it did in fact happen in San Antonio. Their legend states that all children were killed, with the only survivor being the driver, a nun who was thrown through the windshield. It said that the nun had such survivor's guilt that she drove her car and parked it in the middle of the crossing, awaiting for the next train to decide her fate. Right before the train got to her, the car was pushed out of the way, but no one was around. It was believed that the souls of the children helped move her car off of the tracks. People now go to the crossing, put baby powder on their vehicles, leave the car neutral, and wait to see if they'll be pushed over the tracks. People claim that not only do their cars make it across the tracks, but they also see children's handprints and fingerprints left in the baby powder that was on the vehicle.
I recommend all of our viewers to go find train tracks and sit in your car and wait for the
Dust it down with baby powder.
Yes, let the children decide your fate.
Yeah. You might want to make sure that it's a downhill slope.
How
More
much?
than- just like the one that she more than likely had her car parked on.
How much time do you think they had between the bus stopped and there's a train coming? Because I feel like that this could have been solved if they just had the kids
Get off the bus.
get off the bus. I feel like that's the first thing most people
Bus
do.
driver may have been in a rush.
So
tried
the
to jump
Salt
it.
Lake City is actually supposedly where it's just so confusing because records say it was in Salt Lake City. Like there
Utah?
was never anything. Yes. But San Antonio has a news report saying that it happened in San Antonio on the tracks. And so many people argue that it happened in Texas, but it's archived to have happened in Salt Lake City and they have proof.
That's awful weird.
So San Antonio, like their own story is a little bit different than the Salt Lake City one. The Salt Lake City one made me so sick to my stomach because it like they described it as the children's bodies were just strewn all like hundreds and hundreds of feet like from the vehicle, like their bodies everywhere. It was horrible.
I wonder.
So I don't know what actually happened with that one. So the true story,
It probably happened
they
in Salt
probably
Lake
didn't
City.
have time.
Probably.
But San Antonio one, for it to just stall on them, be waiting for someone to come and help and not like open the back. You know, the bus has the little back door
Yeah. and
where
the
all
Yeah.
the
door
children are
and all-
supposed to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have a feeling they wouldn't have left the children in the bus. On
yeah. I'm
train
just
tracks.
going. Well, I guess
Yeah.
we'll wait.
I guess we're just gonna
We're
wait
gonna
for someone
sit
to come and
here
help
and-
us.
Kids, don't worry. Yeah, no, and it totally. I feel like that the whole San Antonio. I think it's probably just somebody from San Antonio was like, oh,
And just
actually,
tried to latch on to it.
yeah, that, or like they misheard or I don't know,
Yeah,
or
maybe.
didn't know what was going on and thought
Yeah.
it was in town, and I don't know.
That happens to this day. People see things that are in the different town and they think it's this town, even though it's really not. So.
I wish I need to do that on the local Facebook page. I need to start posting about like
Just
crazy.
start making your own stuff.
Yes.
So they do. A lot of people argue that most of the tracks that happens on are downhill, and people say usually there's fingerprints already all over your vehicle from.
And then when you dust
Yeah,
it, then the
you
oils
can
from
see-
the fingerprints attract.
hold onto it, and then you can see it afterwards. But people argue like, no, I saw children's hands, but who
Maybe
knows?
they got small
Yeah.
hands.
Maybe
Yeah.
like some random kid walked by your car one day and was like, BAM!
Yeah.
Walmart parking
Kids
lot.
like to touch
you
things.
know.
So,
Interesting. But that is all of our track stories that I have. There are lots of other ones, especially outside of the U.S. I kind of just wanted to stick to the U.S., but there's a lot of cool ones. I really like the idea just because the trains were such a huge part of the United States becoming what it is today. So much history, so much time, so much emotions. People truly did, like, they got on trains to go across the U.S., places they've never been before, never seen. It's a huge part of where we're at today. If we didn't have trains, we wouldn't have a lot of the things that we have now. And trains are still important to us. We don't have them as much for travel, but lugging stuff across the country, equipment, all kinds of things. So, pretty
shout
cool.
out trains. Pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
Pretty goated.
Thomas is my favorite.
Yeah, now we
Of
just
the
get
trains.
to now. I mean, airplanes are kind of the new thing, but I don't think we need the airplane horror stories. I think you just kind of recently just turn on the news. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't need the ghost
there.
stories.
Yeah,
You ain't got to worry about that. It's
No,
right
it's-
out there for you to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't
Yeah.
even have to make stories up.
no, it just you just to get on there and
Watch them fall.
yeah, kind of twist around whenever they're landing, all kinds of wacky
Oh my god.
wacky little stuff. I love trains.
What was your favorite train story of these?
I love the first one. I'm gonna be honest.
AI?
I love the AI Thomas
Thomas the
Train.
Train's
That's
pretty sick.
hilarious. And I called it, by the way.
I think I like Abe just because it's cool to me that he's like his hand is in so many of these little ghost stories.
He's our
and-
first reoccurring character. Shout out Abe.
Yes.
Honest Abe.
Absolutely.
Thanks for freeing the slaves, homie.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate
Big
you.
dog.
What was
He's
your
the man.
I
favorite?
liked that guy passing out in the desert,
Yeah.
Yeah.
showing up in the town, and
The sheriff is just like, maybe you should go back
Yeah,
to
you-
sleep.
Sheriff's face.
Yeah.
You know, gold miners probably didn't
Mess
care
with
for sheriffs too
Woody
much.
or whatever, a little too much.
It was a train. You see a train?
Yeah.
Subscribe to Fear and Flame Podcast.
Thank you so much for joining us in today's episode. If you enjoyed this, make sure to like and subscribe. We want to hear from you. Leave topic ideas in the comments or find our email in the description to send us your scary stories. Find us here next time on Fear and Flame Podcast.
Yep. And make sure
Bye.
to
See you
send
later,
us,
folks.
Send us all the send us all your hate comments too. I like to read those
Yeah.
as much as you want, specifically about her.